Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Chesed Sabbath Fellowship. We meet every Sabbath at 1631 Ford Parkway, St. Paul, Minnesota, from 11:30 a.m. to sunset. You'll see in the lower right-hand corner Mr. Ed Wilbur, and I feel like him over the last month or two, actually the last 6 months. There hasn't been a lot to talk about, although it's starting to pick up going into 2020, but the patterns were not there. So I didn't say much, just like Mr. Ed. I never speak unless I have something to say. Well, I say very little when there's nothing to be said, and I didn't see the patterns. So I played Mr. Ed lately. I try not to twist the Bible. I try not to give you the hype. I really, really try hard. I know how to hype, okay? And I try hard not to do that. I try not to twist the Bible. I try not to give you modern prophets that are fake. I try to test them out for you because I'm better at it than most people. That is one of the gifts that I received from my father. He was a great man. And then the news, I'm getting most of my news from outside America right now. It's that bad. I can't trust anything from our country right now other than a few pundits, and it's rare for me to be able to find something that I can source from in America. So what do I always do? I try to look at things the opposite way. And so my theory is that as you go forward from 70 AD, every 490 years, you get to a major event, just like it wasn't 490 years back during Babylon through the fall of the temple, but it was a figurine in Daniel 2, and then it was these four beasts in Daniel 7. These were both dreams. And so it's Nebuchadnezzar, the lion with the eagle's wings. Well, that's also Great Britain and the United States. Cyrus was a bear with Medo-Persia. No doubt about it. But that's also Russia. That's their symbol. You know Putin's the bear. And Alexander, the leopard with Greece, well, that's also Germany. And you can see the four wings come off it as it splits into its four little areas after Alexander died. And then Caesar's, the beast, final Rome. And Rome is still factoring through. As Rome dies through Justinian I, the last Roman, of 560, so that's 490 years after 70. Then another 490 years, and you see the legs divide as the schism occurs between East and West of Pope Benedict, and that was Benedict the Ninth. He was a wicked, wicked pope. And then we go to this interesting tetrad, Passover, Sukkot of 1539, 1540, and it wasn't a blood moon, but it was amazing, and it marked the sealing of the eastern gate so only the Messiah could go through it. And Suleiman, a Muslim fellow, was chased by lions. It's a very interesting story. And that's then setting off the last 490 years to 2030. I'm not predicting that Jesus returns in 2030, but I'm saying we're getting close. Every day we're a little bit closer. So I look at those things and we're going to lay that history into what you're going to see today. So that's why you need to have a basic background of what's going on. Today is going to be about the menorah and how it factors into all those civilizations and how they factor through these pre-history times of Yeshua. So I say Yeshua is the Ner Tamid. So if I was going to translate John in chapter 1 or John 8:12, I'm the light of the world, I would say Ner Tamid. So if you go into a synagogue and you see the menorah in there, say, or if you see where they put the Torah scrolls, just outside of that, they would have a light that shines all the time, and that would be the Ner Tamid, shining on the Word of God. And so it can't go out, just like Yeshua can't. And so that's a picture of the Hanukkah on the right-hand side, or the menorah on the left-hand side. And this person on the left-hand side said the spring festivals have been fulfilled, and we're waiting for the fall festivals to be fulfilled when Yeshua returns again. And the middle is the Shavuot or Pentecost. Yeah, that works. And then he's showing some other interesting things in here on the Hanukkah on the right-hand side. It's all interesting. It's good to look at those things, but Yeshua is the light of the world, and so I can stick with that and be safe. Okay, now this is a picture of what heaven looks like according to an artist rendering. So you have the Holy of Holies area, which is like the brain up in heaven, and then down below that you'll see the eyes, and you'll see the menorah on one side, looking at what I describe as the people. So it's like Yeshua looking at the peoples. That's the showbread. The people's the bread that we are. And then down below that would be the incense altar, and then down below that would be the animal sacrifice altar. And so there isn't probably one in heaven, but he overlays this over the face, like a face in heaven. And so see that you make them according to what he showed you, the pattern showed you up on the mountain, and that's to Moses in Exodus there. But what are they serving is only a copy and a shadow of the heavenly original. For when Moshe was about to erect the tent, God warned him, "See to it that you make everything according to the pattern you were shown on the mountain." So heavenly original, but then there's a pattern on earth, and so somehow, some way, whatever you see on the left-hand side is up in heaven. So the menorah factors into it. I'm saying that that's like Yeshua looking at the people. The showbread is like the people. That's my opinion. We'll see if it agrees with what we find in the rest of this video. So Moses and Aaron sanctioned the menorah being built and all of the other artifacts. I think it was Bezalel that made it. King David modified things, still in the tabernacle. Then the temple with Solomon on the upper right-hand corner there. And then you've got the items being brought in, an amazing time frame. And so the menorah was really, really important. And you'll see that as we move through this video. Very interesting how the menorah factors in. And I'm arguing that it's reflective of Yeshua, although many things are. Okay, so the first one, as we talked about before, we've got this king in Babylon, and it's Nebuchadnezzar, and he was the greatest. He was the head of gold, so to speak. And so he brought in Zedekiah, blinded him, and then made him bow to Nebuchadnezzar. And then you can see the lion with the lion's wings down below. That's the picture of Babylon. So by Israel's sins, Babylon had to arise because God had to do something about how sinful they were. And so it was time to be captured by Babylon. So Babylon is famous for the ziggurat, and that is the Tower of Babel, and for the nations being confused, and then the hanging gardens of Babylon. And then in 586-ish, you have them coming into Jerusalem and destroying the place because they were wicked. And then you can see on the right-hand side there, you can see the menorah being carted out and brought to Babylon. So now let's see what happens as a result of that. So I'm saying in 586, Av 9, of course, everybody knows it's Av 9, that Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon conquered Jerusalem. Then we move forward exactly 70 years. And then a fellow by the name of Koresh, yes, like David Koresh from Texas, but Cyrus we call him, and he was the Mashiach. According to, that would be Isaiah 45:1, he was God's anointed to go into Babylon. So he was sitting there outside Babylon. You can see the right-hand side there. He was looking at the river there, the Euphrates, and he was wondering, how do I get in there? And then like a dream, he saw that if he dried up the Euphrates, he could walk right in. And he walked in on the night when they were drunk. And now it's interesting. So I want to read this to you. But they brought the golden vessels that were taken out of the temple of the house of God when there was that was in Jerusalem, and the king and his lords and his consorts and his concubines drank from these holy items. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver and brass and iron and wood and of stone. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote over against the candlestick. No, it is Aramaic, but that would be the menorah right there, right behind the menorah, upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace. And the king saw the palm of the hand that wrote. And so he knows many, many parcel Puzzin, I think it is. And so that means your days are numbered and judgment is coming. And he knew it. And that night they were drunk, and in walked Cyrus with his troops, and Medo-Persia took over. So then that's 70 years exactly to the moment that God said it would happen. And Daniel started to count those days and realized how close it was, and then boom, it happened. So thus saith the Lord to his anointed, his Mashiach, to Cyrus, to whose right hand I have holden, to subdue the nations before him, and to loose the loins of the kings, to open the doors before him, and the gates may not be shut. I will go before thee, and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces of doors of brass, and cut asunder the bars of iron, and I will give thee the treasures of darkness, and the hidden riches of secret places. That would be the Holy of Holies and other things like that from Israel that was taken to Babylon. Now Cyrus takes it and he allows it to come back because the Cyrus was a good guy in many ways. So he allowed the Jews to go back. And so it's probably the second edict of Artaxerxes that allows them to go back. But first Cyrus is very open to this. So this shows that they're the bear, no doubt about it, but so is Russia, and that he ruled during this certain time frame. And then it was the largest empire ever for that Medo-Persia. And where did Medo-Persia come from anyway? I mean, from nothing. So it's very interesting. Now the next one that comes along is Alexander, and he conquers quickly. And he would be the leopard. And you can see his empire that just happened so fast. But that was the time for more things to happen, and it revolves around prophecy from Daniel and also the Jews, and then we have the famous Hanukkah story. So Alexander, that's lower left-hand corner there, that's a picture of him. Goes in and invades quickly and takes over these areas, but then he dies shortly afterwards, and so his kingdom is split into four pieces. And so there are the four kingdoms from his nation that will stand up, but not with his power. And so he's broken up into these four pieces. And then you have the Judas Maccabee story and his sons, and the wonderful Hanukkah story, which is that the menorah stays lit, not just one day, but 8 days. And so it does, all of these stories matter with the Hanukkah, with the menorah rather. And so after that, you have Antiochus Epiphanes, so he wanted to be worshipped, okay? And so he came along, and so in 167 BCE, you've got him walking in and slaughtering a pig, and then the big fight, and they lose, and Greece loses, which is amazing, and it sets things up for the Romans to take over after that. Now you could argue that he's the little horn, but also there's a little horn coming in the end times too. The Antichrist is also the little horn, but Epiphanes is somewhat like the little horn. So look at these pictures and remember that they'll happen again. I'm not a preterist, not a partial preterist even. I'm a futurist, and so they'll happen again. So that's the little horn in Daniel, talking about how boastful he is. So we move forward into Vespasian, which is Caesar. He becomes Titus and conquers Jerusalem in 70 CE. And so now you have the picture of all of these beasts. You've got the Babylonians coming in, then the Medo-Persians, then Greece, and all the verses that correspond to that, then the Roman Empire. And it isn't really described exactly what the Roman beast was, and then what it morphs into. But this was that time frame, and Caesar Titus comes in and conquers Jerusalem. And then we go into that countdown of those 490-year time frames, like I showed you in the first slide. So now, this is interesting. So we're showing the menorah again, and this is in Rome. And so Rome conquers, Titus conquers, and the menorah is carried away. So here's a frieze showing that they took the menorah with him. Now, they're going to claim that they don't have it, but my question is to Pope Francis, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall? Well, Pope Francis, hand back the menorah and the other holy items. You have them, obviously, because this proves that you took them with you and that you have them. So this is a quote from Petrus Romanus, from rather the St. Malachi prophecy. Peter the Roman, who will pasture sheep in many tribulations, and when these things are finished, the city of 7 hills, i.e. Rome, will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. The end. So before that happens, will Pope Francis hand back the menorah that has been carted around from place to place to place, and now it's due to come back to Jerusalem? And it should. So here's another picture of it. So what I want to show you is this interesting pattern that you may have never seen before. And by the way, Perry Stone brought this up the other day, and he gets 1,000,000 views to my every one. But I want to point it out that he found something interesting, or maybe it's Bill Cloud, his friend, that found this. So Av 9 of 78 CE is when Titus conquered Jerusalem. He took 91,000 prisoners. He carried out the holy items, all this gold. And then, interestingly enough, we're going to go forward another 9 years to the date of 979 CE and see what happens. So in 79 CE, Pompeii was the second most prolific city compared to Rome in the Roman Empire. And so it was the place, it was Sin City, it was Las Vegas. Okay, so if you wanted a prostitute, you would go to Pompeii, you would look at the wall, look at what picture you wanted to do, and then you'd pick out a woman to do that, or a man to do that with you, and you would pay for it, and you would get whatever you wanted. Well, exactly on Av 9 of 79 CE, you had this horrible Mount Vesuvius blow up, and everybody dies from the fumes within seconds. Now, interestingly enough, before somebody died, he wrote Sodom and Gomorrah on the lower right-hand side here. And that's on the wall there. In this Pompeii city, they wrote Sodom and Gomorrah because they knew they were Sodom and Gomorrah, and they knew they were judged so fast. Literally in 1 hour it happened. And you can see the pictures of how they died so quickly. So Where are we now? Are we to this end times yet? Because Yeshua talks about how they're going to be like the days of Noah, the days of Lot. Likewise, it was at that time or in that time of Lot, people ate and drank and bought and sold and planted and built. But the day of Lot left Sodom. Fire and sulfur rained down from heaven and destroyed them all. That is how it will be on the day the Son of Man is revealed. So we're waiting for that day. So we know that some of those pictures that we see of Pompeii and other places like that are related to this time frame that we're in right now, but we don't know exactly. So Matthew, this is Yeshua speaking again, says, but if the people of a house or town will not welcome you or listen to you, and that was the sin of Sodom, leave it and shake the dust from your feet. Yes, I tell you, it will be more tolerable on the day of judgment for the people of Sodom and Gomorrah than that town. Yeah, it's going to be that bad in these days when you won't help people. Okay, so now let's throw together this 9-year pattern that we have between Rome sacking Jerusalem and then their second largest city, and their city of Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed, and that's Pompeii. So at this point in time, I'd like to point out that we've had a pattern of 40 eclipses. We've had 10 blood moon eclipses over 9 years from 2010 to 2019. The pattern's ended. Okay, but it was a 9-year pattern. We are in this limbo time frame. We've been in it for many, many months now. That's why I haven't been recording as many videos. And I just kind of thought things were going to kick off sooner than this, but they haven't. Actually, I thought things were going to kick off more like 2015, 2016, 2017, by 2018, of course. And now here we are in the 2020, basically. And nothing's happened, but the pattern is done. So just be aware of it. It's a 9-year pattern, which is interesting. And 9 is tet in the Hebrew language. And so that would be like snakes in the basket if you looked at the picture. So the point of the whole video is Pope Francis, hand back the menorah. And so this is J.R. Church. He's been dead for many, many years. But this is a nice little article from him stating basically that the Catholic Church has the holy items. And so since that time, we've learned that we believe Pope Francis is the false prophet. Sadhu Sundar Severage confirmed that, and then others have too. This Petrus Romanus book really confirms that he should be the final pope. And so, the Ark of Titus once again shows the menorah, and so we know that they have it, and so we know that Pope Francis is involved in this, and so why not hand back the holy items to the Jews, the Hebrews, and get started on the end times? So Pope Francis is not the Antichrist, but he is part of the process, and there are many players involved in this. And so this is from Revelation 13:7 to 10. I just want you to be aware of this, that he will be involved with others in persecuting the saints. You're not going to get this easy rapture out. You're going to be here through the whole thing. And these are the verses that help prove it. And they're very similar to what Daniel states. So it was allowed to make war on God's holy people, that's the Hagios, and to defeat them, and it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Everyone living on the earth will worship it, even those whose names are written in the book of life belonging to the Lamb slaughtered before the world was founded. Those who have ears, let them hear. If anyone is meant for captivity, into captivity he goes. If anyone is to be killed with the sword he is to be killed. Well, this is when God's holy people, the Hagios, must persevere and trust. So we are going through, and we have to double down in faith in God and Yeshua to get through this horrible time. And so you can see also they'll wear out the saints down below in the lower right hand corner, Daniel 7:21 and 25. So we see this boastful horn that is the Antichrist that works with the false prophet to persecute the saints. So just get ready for it. I believe that we've gone through Seal 3 that opened in 2012 during the summer, and now we're waiting for Seal 4, which would be horrific, and we're seeing martyrdom, Seal 5. But then we're starting to see some of the signs of Seal 6. We should see more of those. So just watch and look for things like asteroids and other weird signs in the skies. You'll see more of those, and you'll know that we're getting close to the end times. So thank you very much for your time, and God bless you, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for watching this video. Bye-bye.